Okay, then I'll just move on to our topic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to ask you about water problem in Central Asia.
yeah,
And well, actually, I found very interesting thing while I was looking at satellite image.
hmm
I searched some areas around the RLC, and I noticed something very peculiar
hmm
because as I follow the flow of Amu Darya River,
yeah,
it seemed to narrow downstream, and
hmm
then the flow I mean, the river didn't flow into the RLC.
hmm
Instead, it disappeared into the deserts.
yeah,
I think it's quite weird for
yeah.
me. So why is that?
So historically, the Amudarya
Uh-huh.
flowed into the RLC,
Hmm.
contributing to its water levels.
Hmm.
But however, as we know, the Central Asia was part of the Soviet Union, and especially this part where Amudarya flows, it was focused on cultivation. Even in today's days, there is like a continuation of this process, and
Hmm.
mostly these places are being cultivated by cotton. And we know,
Cotton.
yeah, the cotton
Oh.
production requires a lot of water. So, thus consequently, the river's flow diminished downstream,
Hmm.
especially less water is reaching now RLC. And
Hmm.
the first case is about cultivation of cotton, and the second
Hmm.
case about climate change.
Climate change.
Yeah, over the years, we know that the temperature is rising, and
Hmm.
particularly this area, as you mentioned already, it's desert. And
Hmm.
as year by year, the level of temperature is rising. That's why the level of water as a mean of evaporation is increasing. We could say that the climate change is affecting here because not much water is coming from Amu Darya to the Aral Sea.
Hmm.
And here, the third point, probably it will be beneficial to look at the Afghanistan,
Hmm.
because some parts of Amu Darya water flows through Afghanistan,
Okay.
and
Uh-huh.
we know the political situation there. And it
Hmm.
will be beneficial if you look at the programs that they are having. And as we know now, there is a canal that the Afghans is planning to build through Amu Darya, if I'm not mistaken. I guess
Yeah, I saw that in an article as well. So the canal
mhm.
has completed or is it still going on?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't
Oh.
looked in recent times. I just know that
Mhm.
they are building it and they have this plan
Mhm.
to have water canal in the other parts of the Afghanistan.
Okay. So do people worry about that much?
Yeah, sure. Because as in political case, um, some countries are um, reluctant from
Mhm.
working with them, but due to the cooperation strategies in Central Asia, so if you want to solve one of the common problems, you have to negotiate. But in terms of water usage, I'm not sure how is it going now, but
Mhm.
in general, I guess there is a progress on discussion how it will be managed. But this is alarming for all Central Asians, especially
Oh.
who are dependent on Amu Darya water.
Okay. And about a few days ago, I had a discussion on water problem with another expert, and he told me a thing which is for me hard to believe actually,
Hmm.
because in Central Asia, there are many places without water metering system.
Mhm.
I was quite surprised to hear that, and I want to know if that is true or not.
Yeah, that is totally true. The person was
Really?
not deceiving you, but
Hmm.
as we know, Kazakhstan is a landlocked country,
Hmm.
which is water deficient country.
Hmm.
There are a lot of places where water cannot be accessed
Hmm.
due to several problems. So the problem is infrastructure issue. In some
Hmm.
areas, the water supply infrastructure may be outdated
Hmm.
or poorly maintained. and
Mm-hmm.
this means there are challenges to access the clean water.
Mm-hmm.
We also know about economic factors.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, the cost of having access to water is a bit high, and not
Mm-hmm.
all people can access to this water.
Mm-hmm.
The third one we could say about cultural practices.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, Kazakh people are nomad, and in some areas, people are still living, focusing on farming, especially in cattling and horse growing or other types of farming.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it's not beneficial to settle down in one place. That's why they do not need this water meter,
Mm-hmm.
but they prefer to have these rivers or lakes. They can have this
Oh,
water. Yeah, so these
really?
are the three like main concerns. I mean, the reasons why there are
Mm-hmm.
no water meters.
How is the situation is like in a city,
Yeah,
like Almaty or, you know, the capital city or something like that?
yeah. In general, in Kazakhstan, there are not so big problem to have access to water in cities,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but there are several problems. The first is urbanization.
Mm-hmm.
So the influx of people coming to big cities like Astana and Almaty is really making a pressure on infrastructure for water resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the news on Kazakhstan, there were some cases when in Astana, for example, where there were no water in some housing buildings. But this is
Oh.
not about access to water, but it's about more mismanagement of these housing buildings. Because, for
Oh.
example, when you build a house, you have to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the house has water. Yeah.
Sure.
But some housing firms, they try to sell fast their house. That's why they do not focus on having this infrastructure. In some,
Really?
yeah, in some cases, residents will be mad to have no water in their houses, but
Uh-huh.
they buy it because
Uh-huh.
the housing firms already promised to have this water. So this is one of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
The another case is outdated infrastructure. In
Mm-hmm.
some old cities,
Mm-hmm.
there are still parts of the city which has outdated like infrastructure, especially which is comes from the Soviet times. So
Mm-hmm.
in some cases, there are accidents where no water could be accessed in housings due to this not mismanagement is probably not focusing on the infrastructure at cities.
So if people don't have access to water, then doesn't it affect the popularity of politicians or mayors or something, someone in charge of that?
If we talk about political situations, we
Uh-huh.
have to understand it is very so we do not choose our mayors in cities,
Ah,
especially
okay.
yeah, especially in big cities, the mayors are appointed by the president.
Ah, okay.
So there is no direct causality between popularity of the mayor, but it 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 focuses on the mayor's competence,
Mm-hmm.
like how the mayor is very good of providing service or not good.
Okay. So I heard that there was something like Almaty agreement
Hmm.
to deal with the problem, but
Hmm.
I don't know if it's working well or not. Who monitors that?
Yeah, so Almaty Agreement actually was signed in 1992, if I'm not mistaken. It's the first legal document that was focused on water resource management in Central Asia. That
Mm-hmm.
included all five countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm.
So it addresses the issues related to water allocation, management, and environmental protection, especially the region's major two rivers, it's
Mm-hmm.
Sirdarya and Amudarya.
Mm-hmm.
So, in simple words, it is nice to have this agreement because it has the legal basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like when two upstream countries, especially it's Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan,
Mm-hmm.
are cooperating with downstream countries which focus
Mm-hmm.
on Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to, I mean, in this regard, we have to also mention about International Fund for Saving RLC, which also included five old countries, but at some point, Kyrgyz Republic decided to leave this, but now it is also coming again as how is called? Yeah, observer country. And this time, the interesting about this international fund is that all four countries actually have a rotation of chairmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, the chairmanship was ended for Tajikistan, and
Mm-hmm.
for this year, Kazakhstan is having the chairmanship.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So,
the agreement actually is a legal framework for cooperation because, like, if you don't have the legal cooperation status, it will be difficult for you to justify or to
mm-hmm.
back up your decisions. And also it's a very big step on regional cooperation for all countries, especially in water resources.
Mm-hmm.
About monitoring mechanisms, basically there is a regional organization, including Interstate Commission for Water Coordination,
Mm-hmm.
that monitors water management in the region.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they meet several times in a year so that they can
Mm-hmm.
discuss it. But also, there are basin dialogues and basin monitoring system within the
Mm-hmm.
Central Asia, like
Mm-hmm.
Sirdarya Basin, Talas Shu Basin, and like different basins which are actually coordinated by countries, like in discussion.
And experts actually monitor
Yeah,
the
yeah.
system.
Yeah, like the experts from each countries gather
Mm-hmm.
together and
Mm-hmm.
discuss how it's
Mm-hmm.
going, how it's not going. And also, there are many international organizations like World Bank
Okay.
and Asian Development Bank who are
Uh-huh.
mostly collaborating and focusing on this
Mm.
issue.
So you think that it's working actually?
Um, Yeah, the question is how efficient our working is going on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but in general, yeah, it's working. And it's like the basis for dialogue. If you have
Uh-huh.
dialogue, I guess it's the best condition for working.
Okay. Okay. And I want to move on to the Kazakhstan policy.
Hmm.
And I saw that Kazakhstan NDC include both conditional and unconditional target.
Hmm.
And I want to know why they are separated like that. And is that common in Central Asian countries?
Um, mm, so Kazakhstan has, as you mentioned, two targets. The first one is unconditional, second one is conditional.
Yeah.
As a part of Paris Agreement, Kazakhstan has signed this Paris Agreement, and
Mm-hmm.
it has its commitments to reduce CO2 level until 2050, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So unconditional targets that Kazakhstan can achieve using its own resources and
Mm-hmm.
capabilities without relying on external support.
Mm-hmm.
So it reflects the domestic policies and initiatives that are going to lower to like yeah to diminish the CO2 level. But
Mm-hmm.
conditional targets is mostly about external support.
Mm-hmm.
So these targets depend on receiving international support, such as financial assistance,
Mm-hmm.
technology transfer, and capacity building from developed nations and international organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is actually common in Central Asia because in regional context, the separation of targets into conditional and conditional is very common.
Mm-hmm.
Other countries like Uzbekistan have also adopted similar frameworks in their NDCs.
Mm.
So it reflects the need to achieve more ambitious in climate goals, I guess.
So, what do you think that kind of separation, like having conditional and unconditional targets, what do
Mhm.
you think of that? Is it inevitable or is it good or what do you think of it?
Um, yeah, from my point of view, so as you know, these countries, our countries in Central Asia are mostly like natural resource production countries.
Mm-hmm.
So selling always raw material is a bit not always a good thing for economy because you cannot have a lot of profit. That is why having this separation is basically shows the capability of the country itself. So not promising a lot, but saying that we can also do something in order to decrease level and to be of part of international community shows its commitment in Paris Agreement.
Mhm.
But if you have the Paris Agreement signed, there is a need to align this framework. That is why it should be separated into parts, I guess.
Mhm. So what people, I mean, not you, but in general, what general Kazakhstan think of the mitigation? I mean, because, many countries in that region, in your region,
Hmm.
you just went through economic hardship in 1990s,
Hmm.
and now you are gaining back to like 1980s economy
Yeah.
level. So maybe I think people don't really agree with that mitigation stuff because it's not our fault.
Yeah, I guess general population, firstly, there is a low level of awareness about climate change
Hmm.
in a general population because uh, we cannot be sure that all people understand climate change for 100%. That
Hmm.
is one of the issues. Because this might be explained by several reasons. First of all, as you mentioned, economic hardship. People are more concerned about their situation, about their wealth, and there is no place for them to care about climate, and
Hmm.
especially when it comes to mitigation problems.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that many Central Asian countries would be saying that this is unfair to impose
Hmm.
similar mitigation responsibilities on their countries as
Hmm.
those of the developed nations.
Hmm.
So the argument often centers on the notion that developed countries have historically contributed more to
Hmm.
greenhouse gases emissions and have greater resources to invest in mitigation strategies.
Hmm.
As a result, there is a call for equality or equity in climate negotiations, emphasizing that developed nations should take more and substantial responsibility in
Hmm.
this regard.
Hmm. And I want to talk about referendum
Mhm.
on the construction of nuclear power plants. And it was held about 2 weeks ago, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
and
yeah, 2 weeks ago, yeah.
it's reported that it received significant public support.
Yeah,
And I want to hear from you. I mean, I want you to evaluate that results.
yeah. I will probably say there are like several concerns there is a need to address.
Hmm.
First of all, there are more senior people who are more expertise, but that I hold first concern is Kazakhstan's historical trauma related
Hmm.
to nuclear testings. Um, so, yeah, the largest nuclear testing site in the world during Cold War was in Kazakhstan. Semipalatin's testing site had a lot of severe damages to the region, especially when it comes to its people, environment, and for the general well-being of the regional development.
Hmm.
So the Soviet Union conducted a significant number of nuclear tests from 1949 to 1989, almost
Hmm.
50 years. And
Hmm.
Kazakhstan is still recovering from this
Hmm.
historical part of nuclear testing. And
Hmm.
whenever the words of nuclear actually appear somewhere, or the person hears it, actually can be a trigger
Hmm.
for this trauma to be come again.
Hmm.
So this is like touching like aching pain, I guess. And this
Hmm.
trauma actually could be negatively associated with peaceful nuclear. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Another concern about this environmental impact.
Mm-hmm.
We told like the Kazakhstan is landlocked country, which has
Mm-hmm.
not so many of water reservoirs or water results.
Sorry.
So
Sorry.
yeah, it's fine.
There was a phone call.
So the construction and operation of power plant actually can impact the local ecosystem, water
Mm-hmm.
resources, and biodiversity. Um, I mean, there should be a more efficient focus on how this environmental impact could be preserved.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another concern, I guess, from my side about it's in cost and financing about this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, According to the data, there are a lot of like huge money should be given in order to construct this nuclear
Mm-hmm.
power plant. I mean, it requires a lot of investment in financing, and it requires a lot of time, especially to construct
Mm-hmm.
it. So in general, I'm not fully against of nuclear, I mean, peaceful nuclear stations
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
operating because, yeah, a lot of developed countries have it, but I guess there are no needs to rush and
Mm-hmm.
no need to be very quick
Mm-hmm.
in making the final decisions, I guess.
Then, even though there were lots of concerns that you mentioned, but actually it obtained a lot of public support. I think it was more than 70%.
Mhm.
Why is that?
Uh,
How did you obtain that high public support?
I'm not sure. Because yeah, like the views I told you, it's basically my personal views.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the other people in Kazakhstan, but I could say about the probably energy deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
As the country has a lot of, I mean, nuclear power stations could not save, could solve the problem of nuclear of energy deficiency, I guess.
You said that you will come to Korea next year, right?
Yeah, I'm planning to go. I guess it will be not spring or summer,
Mm-hmm.
these two seasons, I guess.
Okay, then you should call me when you
Nice.
when you come
Is it
here.
possible? Yeah, I was planning to ask it. Is it possible to come to next group? I actually
Oh,
looked at the
sure, sure,
yeah. So if it is
absolutely.
possible, any other projects that you are having now?
We do have some projects going on. If you are interested in specific topics, then I can match you up with other experts as well.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice
Yeah,
day.
thank you. You too. Goodbye.